Hello friends, welcome to my channel. So today we'll be talking about Lambda expression and how we can use Lambda expression in Java. So today I have a guest with me, Mr. Faisal Khatri on my channel. Welcome Faisal.
Hi. Hello, folks.
So we'll be talking about the Lambda expressions today. So do you know about Lambda expression?
I didn't get much opportunity to work with these kind of functionals. I'm still in the learning stage, and I would love to have such kind of sessions with you, Vasik, so to gain more knowledge around the Java things and learn more on the Lambda expressions part.
So Lambda expressions is not new. Basically, it was introduced in Java 1.8. And many people are still not aware about what Lambda expression is and how we can use Lambda expression to reduce the lines of code we write in test automation. So today I'll be walking you through an example which will take a look with Selenium WebDriver. And we'll see without Lambda expression how we used to write the code, and with Lambda expression how we can reduce the lines of code and we can use more robust way of writing the test case. So I share my screen.
Can you give me an example with regards to like Lambda expression? Is it a kind of functional interface? What is it like? Because
I'll talk
need
you
to
through that.
need to get some insights around the Lambda expression. But before we dive into the actual sessions.
So basically, Lambda expression is a functional interface. Functional interface is an interface which will have only one abstract method. You might be knowing about the abstract method, right? With the method which is only declared. It is not having any body in it. It is just declared that there will be one method in that interface, and mostly the using class will implement that method and it will give the implementation of that method, right? So that's how Lambda expression is. Basically, it uses functional interface in the background, and it is kind of an arrow function, you could say, where an arrow function is used, or anonymous method is used to invoke that Lambda, invoke that functional interface method. So I'll walk you through that. I'll share my screen.
Sure.
So let me know if you're able to see the screen. Okay.
Yes, I can see.
So here I have created a sample class which is named as without Lambda example. Here what I am doing is I am doing a login on the Internet Hero app, and I am just doing login while getting the method, getting the success message, and printing that message, and then logging out and again printing the logout message. So if you see the code, it is pretty straightforward. I am initializing the WebDriver over here. I am setting the some timeouts like implicit timeout, page load timeout, and script timeout, which is normally done in our projects. And we are navigating to that URL. And in the login method, what I'm doing is I'm just writing the username, entering the password, and clicking on the login button. That will take me to the next page where I can see the success message. And with that message, you can validate. But since this is a simple example, I will be just printing it on the console. And in the logout method, I'll be doing the same thing. I'll be clicking on the logout button. I'll get the success message of the logout and print it on the console. So I'll execute this and the locators I've saved it in this fashion, which we normally do in our page object concept. All the locators are saved here. And this is the main method. Although we in the real scenario, we won't be using the main method. We'll be using any test framework like test or whatever. Okay. I'll execute this test case and I'll show you how it will be. You can use the password. It has printed the success message of the login and success message of the logout. And this much is the amount of milliseconds it took to execute the test. Now, if you notice the code, there are some duplication of the code. Can you notice the duplication of
Vasik,
the code?
sorry to interrupt. Can you speak a bit louder? Your voice is getting a bit slow for me. I cannot hear it completely.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, a bit better than before.
If you notice in the code, there are plenty of code duplication. Did you notice which code duplication I'm talking about?
I think I see a lot of driver.manage.timeouts that this same line of code is getting repeated, only the methods change at the end. Also, driver.find elements, I see the lines repeating multiple times. Maybe I'm correct here?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So here with Lambda expression, we will eliminate all these code duplications. We'll eliminate this timeouts line, and we'll also eliminate the multiple find elements. So let's say take an example of with Lambda expression. So here there is the same test which I have written. The only thing it changes is the implementation. So here I have created a separate method called set timeouts. And here I am taking a Lambda expression. So now if you can see only the method is repeated. That driver.manage.timeout is not repeated. So you might ask like how we can write such a Lambda expression, correct? So let's take an example in this method. So what I am taking the input is I am taking the consumer input. Now, if you will be asking what is the consumer? So Java has exposed its own set of functional interfaces which we can use, and all these functional interfaces is available in the java.util.function package. So if you see the consumer class, it is having an accept method which is taking one argument and it is not returning anything. So in our case, we are just setting the timeouts and we don't expect anything to be returned in that. We are just setting the timeouts. Okay. So
Just to
here,
correct here, consumer is an interface, right? It's not a
yes,
class.
consumer is a
Okay.
functional interface. So functional interface is an annotation which tells Java that this interface is a functional interface. So if we mark any interface with this annotation, it will give compilation error if you have more than one abstract method. Although you can have different default methods in that interface, that is fine. But only the abstract method will be only one in the functional interface.
Also, if you could share some lights on that T uh, generic method, what does that refer to? It would be good for the
Generics is
people who are
another
watching.
concept in Java, which we can cover in the another video. It is a separate topic and it is also quite in depth. So there can be multiple variations which we can use in generics. So here it is a simple generic which is expecting T. So here generics are declared in the class level. So here, when you declare the generics, you can either declare it in the class level or method level. So here we are declaring at the class level with the T. So it can be anything, any value. You can give A, B, C, X, Y, Z, whatever. It does not matter. Okay. So it will just consider as a generic class. So it can be any class. It is equivalent to an object class. Object class can take any values. And it can be it can take string, it can take number, it can take boolean, whatever. But in that object class, you need to do explicit typecasting. But with generics, you don't need to do typecasting. It will be taken care of internally. So that's the benefit of that. We are using generics. Now let's come to this method. So here what I am doing, I have declared a parameter called consumer, which is taking an input value as WebDriver dot timeouts. And internally I am calling timeouts dot accept driver dot manage dot timeout. So this line will not get repeated again and again. Earlier you used to call it multiple times. Now we will not call multiple times. It is encapsulated in this method.
A
Similarly,
quick question,
yeah,
there on that line. So timeouts.accept, and inside that you are consuming WebDriver.manage.timeouts. So if I
yes,
want to use any methods that are appearing in the timeouts
yes,
class, I can use those method in the real implementation wherever I
Yes.
use it.
So if you do this control space, you can see all the methods which are there in the timeout class.
Okay.
So all this is supported in the IntelliSense of the IDE. So you can also hover on this T, and you will see the type is WebDriver timeouts. Okay. So earlier, let's compare the code. Earlier, like how this code used to look. Earlier, it used to look like this.
Yep.
So there
And
were
a quick
like,
correction here, the timeouts is an interface in WebDriver, right? It's not a class.
yes,
Yep. Okay.
you can also check that. Okay. And click on this, and it is an interface. Uh,
Correct.
uh, Basically, it is a nested interface. It is inside the
Fine.
WebDriver class. WebDriver is also an interface. So there are plenty of interfaces inside this pipeline.
Yep.
Let's continue. So next is perform action. So I'm doing a perform action over here.
So
Just
before we move towards that perform action thing, can you just explain me that arrow? What does that arrow referencing mean on line number 37 of the code?
so this is a shorthand for a anonymous method. Basically, this is the method parameter, and this is the method body. And this is a shorthand stating that this is a method. So it is basically an anonymous method which will be get basically what you can say is this is the implementation of the abstract method of that functional interface. So here is a functional interface is consumer. So consumer is having one abstract method, correct? So that abstract method implementation is the thing which we put after this arrow. So you can give a block also, code block. So here you can have multiple lines of code and all. Since we are having
Cool.
only one line, it does not
Mhm.
require to have a curly bracket. That's why it is uh, written in the same line. If you are
Okay.
having multiple lines, like you are doing something in between, so you can put a curly bracket like we normally do for the method. That's
Okay.
how this
Thanks.
method referencing, Lambda expression works. So this is a syntax for Lambda actually, arrow. The arrow is a hyphen and greater than sign. You say hyphen and greater sign.
So are you using any kind of extension in VS Code so that arrow appears so correctly and neatly in the editor?
It is a font. So I am using Fira code. I'll show you. So
Can you
there,
show that which one you are
yes,
using?
so it is a Fira code font. You can download it
Okay.
from Google Fonts.
Uh-huh.
And when you download and install that Fira code, you need to select Fira code and you need to enable ligatures. Enable ligatures will make this arrows pretty neat and clean. Even the greater than equal to sign and all this sign will be much easier to understand, like not equals. All
Mhm.
this syntax will become pretty neat and clean.
Okay. Thank you for showing that. I was not aware of that thing. Thanks. We'll download and install you and use that font in my editor as well. Thanks.
So proceeding ahead, now earlier we were using many driver.find elements. Now we'll be using this perform action. So this perform action is another method which I have created, which will take their input of by locator, and it will again take a lambda expression where we will define the action of that element. So here E is equivalent to web element, and we will be using e dot send keys to send the values to that element. So in this case, we are passing the username value, and in the next case, we are passing the password value. Now, this case, this is called a method referencing. So another concept in Lambda expression is if the parameter means if So basically what happens is it is equivalent to e dot click. Since we are not passing any value to this method, what the ID is suggesting, it is suggesting to use method referencing. Lambda can be replaced with method reference. So the method reference is double colon, and the method will be called afterwards. So the a class in which that method is, so it will be the web element double colon click. So that's how method reference is used. Now
Can you
we'll
please go to the perform action
yeah,
method
I was
to show
going
the
in that
declaration,
only.
please?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was going in that. So here also we are just performing actions. We are not returning any value. We'll be only consuming the value. So over here we are consuming the value web element, and with web element we are doing different actions. So we are again using consumer over here, and we are passing the parameter as driver dot find element, and we're passing the locator value with that. Okay. So you don't need to write driver dot find element everywhere. We'll just call the method perform action. We'll pass the locator and we'll do the action. And it will be driver dot find element will be handled separately. It is pretty straightforward, and it is pretty similar to set timeouts. So here the value we are passing is web element. That's why the E value is converted to web element. And all the methods in the web element will be available over here under the E. Okay. Now there is another method which I have created called get element attribute. Here we will have an input parameter as web element, and we will have something returned in that. For example, we'll return a value from get text, get attribute. These are the methods which we can use to get values from web element. Okay, so there are plenty of things like accessible name, area label, area role, location. All these we can return from that element. So for that, I have created a get element attribute. Let's see in this method. So here we cannot use consumer. So, so here what we will be using, we will be using a function. So function is another functional interface which will have an input value and an output value. So over here, I am declaring a generic on method level called t, and I'll be returning that t value, and I'll passing that t to this functional interface in the second parameter. Okay, and in that I'll be calling the function dot apply, and in that parameter I'll be again passing driver dot find element with locator. Okay. So here I'm doing again a functional. I'm calling the method reference of get text, and I'm passing the element of success message, and I'll save the value in the message variable, and I'll print that message. So basically get text will return string. So this will automatically convert the message to string. Now I'll execute this class and I'll show it to you. So that speed is little slow. Test failed. Okay. I'll execute again. Okay, so the test executed and we are able to see the message for the login and logout. So this is how we can use Lambda expression in test automation.
Cool. Thank you, Asik, for this detailed explanation about Lambda expressions. I hope we can connect later on the other aspects with regards to Java and the functional interfaces thing. Uh, it was an insightful session. Thank you so much. And I hope we can have more such sessions, and I can as well as the community can learn more from it. Thank you.
Yeah. So basically, this Lambda expressions I am extensively using in my frameworks, which I have open source from GitHub. So if anybody is interested, can check it out in the GitHub. I'll put some links in the description below.
So what is that framework that you are
Uh,
creating?
I have created a framework called Boyka framework. Uh, I can show it to you.
Yep. Please.
This is the Boyka framework which I was talking about. You'll check it out on GitHub. And here, most of the core Java framework is in this folder. So basically, this is a mono repo. So you will find plenty of things in this project. So there are plenty of Lambda expression examples you can find in the menu. You can explore the project and check it out.
Sure, sure. Yeah, and I would I would like suggest you to provide the example that you just showed over the screen sharing. Can you please update that in the GitHub and create a repository and share it with the community as well, so that people can
Yes,
learn
I'll
from it?
be sharing this code and I'll be putting it on GitHub and I'll share the code and put the link in the description. So, everybody can check it out. I'll
Sure, sure,
be updating this repository and with all the new examples, with, for example, generics and different kind of example, which will be helpful in writing robust Java code.
sure, sure. Thank you so much for your time and efforts in making all those things happen.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, it
Bye.
was pleasure to having you. Yeah.
Thank you.